Good day, I'm James Mark Sumawang from BS Ed Math 3A, and I'm going to discuss about the 13-5, the Kruskal Wallis test. The analysis of variance uses the F-test to compare the means of three or more populations. The assumptions for the ANOVA test are that the populations are normally distributed and that the population variances are equal. When this assumption cannot be met, the non-parametric Kruskal-Wallis test, sometimes called the H-test, can be used to compare three or more means. So, ginagamit ang Kruskal-Wallis test to compare three or more means. The populations are not normally distributed, and when the population variances are not equal. In this test, each sample size must be 5 or more. In these situations, the distribution can be approximated by the chi-square distribution with k-1 degrees of freedom, where k is equal to the number of groups. This test also uses ranks. This test is always a right-tailed test. The chi-square table G with df equals k-1 should be used for critical values. If the test value is greater than the critical value, reject the null hypothesis. If otherwise, do not reject the null hypothesis. Formula for the Kruskal-Wallis test. H is equal to 12 over daddy n times quantity daddy n plus 1 times quantity r sub 1 square over baby n sub 1 plus r sub 2 square over baby n square plus so on and so forth plus r sub k square over baby n sub k minus 3 times quantity daddy n plus 1, where r sub 1 equals sum of ranks of sample 1, baby n sub 1 equals size of sample 1, r sub 2 is equal to sum of ranks of sample 2, baby n sub 2 is equal to size of sample 2, r sub k is equal to sum of ranks of sample k, baby n sub k is equal to size of sample k, and daddy n is equal to baby n sub 1 plus baby n sub 2 plus so on and so forth plus baby n sub k, where k is equal to number of samples. So this is the procedure table for Kruskal-Wallis test. Step 1, state the hypothesis and identify the claim. Step 2, find the critical value. Use the chi-square table G with df equals k minus 1, where k is equal to the number of groups. Then step 3, compute the test value, which has 3 steps. So A is equal to, A is arrange the data from lowest to highest and rank each value. B, find the sum of ranks of each group. C, substitute in the formula. Step 4, make the decision. And step 5, summarize the results. Example 13-6, milliequivalents of potassium in breakfast drinks. A researcher tests 3 different brands of breakfast drinks to see how many milliequivalents of potassium per quart each contains. These data are obtained. In brand A, we have 4.7, 3.2, 5.1, 5.2, and 5.0. In brand B, we have 5.3, 6.4, 7.3, 6.8, and 7.2. In brand C, we have 6.3, 8.2, 6.2, 7.1, and 6.6. At alpha is equal to 0.05, is there enough evidence to reject the hypothesis that all brands contain the same amount of potassium? Solution. Step 1. State the hypothesis and identify the claim. Our null hypothesis: there is no difference in the amount of potassium contained in the brands, which is our claim. The alternative hypothesis is there is a difference in the amount of potassium contained in the brands. Step 2. Find the critical value. Use the chi-square table, table G, with df equals k minus 1, where k is equal to number of groups, with alpha is equal to 0.05 and degrees of freedom equals 3 minus 1 equals 2. The critical value is 5.991. Step 3. Compute the test value. Arrange all the data from the lowest to highest and rank each value. So, ayan yung mga data natin. At meron tayong table dito sa baba niya. Sa amount, dito natin ilalagay yung mga data from lowest to highest. And sa brand column naman, lalagay natin kung anong mga brand sila. A or B or C ba? So, ilalagay natin dyan sa column 2 or yung brand column. Tapos sa rank column naman is since 15 na sample yan, irarank natin siya from 1 to 15. Then, next, find the sum of the rank of each brand. So, sa brand A, i-add lang natin yung mga rank each brand. So, sa brand A, we have 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 plus 5 is equal to 15. In brand B, we have 6 plus 9 plus 11 plus 13 plus 14 is equal to 53. And in brand C, we have 7 plus 8 plus 10 plus 12 plus 15. So letter C, substitute in the formula. So here's the formula where our R1, R sub 1 is equal to 15. Yung brand A natin. Nakuha natin yung sum of the ranks. Yun na yung R sub 1 natin. Yung R sub 2, yung sa brand B, 53. Tapos, R sub 3 is equal to 52, yung sum of the ranks ng brand C. So, yung baby N sub 1 is equal to baby N sub 2 and equal to baby N sub 3 is equal to 5. Pare-pareho lang naman yung sample natin each group. And yung daddy N natin or yung whole sample natin, kung ilan sila lahat is 15. Now, let's substitute to the formula. H is equal to 12 over 15 times quantity, 15 plus 1 times quantity, 15 square over 5 plus 53 square over 5 plus 52 square over 5 minus 3 times quantity, 15 plus 1, which is equal to 9.38. Solution step 4. Make the decision since the test value 9.38 is greater than the critical value 5.991. The decision is to reject the null hypothesis. Step 5. Summarize the results. There is enough evidence to reject the claim that there is no difference in the amount of potassium contained in the three brands. Hence, not all brands contain the same amount of potassium.
So we have the next example, calories in cereals. Samples of 4 different cereals show the following numbers of calories for the suggested servings of each brand. At alpha equals 0.05, is there a difference in the number of calories for the different brands? So ito yung ating data with 4 brands. So ang gagamitin natin ulit na procedure ay yung Kruskal Wallis test. So sa step 1, state the hypothesis and identify the claim. So ang null hypothesis natin ay there is no difference in the number of calories for the different brands. Tapos yung alternative hypothesis natin ay there is a difference in the number of calories for the different brands, which is also our claim. So step 2, let's compute for the degrees of freedom. K minus 1. So, ang K natin ay 4. So, 4 minus 1. Next, hanapin natin yung critical value with the at alpha equals 0.05 and the degrees of freedom na 3. So, degrees of freedom 3. So, gagamitin natin dito ay table G. Ayan, so, degrees of freedom 3 tapos 0.05. So, nag-intersect sila dun sa 7.815. So, ang critical value natin ay 7.815. So, proceed na tayo sa step 3. Ayan. Tapos, compute the test value. Sabi niya. So, meron siyang mga sub-steps. Tatlong sub-steps. Tapos, yung una, arrange all the data from the lowest to highest. So, i-paste lang natin tong mga samples sa ating amount column. Ayan. So, ayusin lang natin tong table. So, sabi niya, arrange all the data from the lowest to highest. So, i-start lang natin to from smallest to largest. Yan. Naka-sort na. So, ang gagawin natin, irarank natin ngayon each value. So, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So, yung pang 9 ay dalawa kasi silang 116. So, gagawin natin itong 9.5. Tapos, 9.5 din yung isa. Hindi siya 9 tsaka 10. Kasi pareho lang sila ng amount. So, 9.5 na yan tsaka 9.5. So, parang ito na yung 9. Tapos, ito na yung 10. So, ito na is 11. tapos 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. So, yan. Dalawa na naman yung 125. So, ito ay 16. Ay, 17 pala. 17.5. Tapos, gagawin din natin 17.5. So, ang next number na natin is para 17, 18 na to. So, 19 dapat to. Kaso, dalawa na naman ito. So, ito ay 19.5. Tapos, sa baba niya din 19.5. Parang 6, 17, 18, 19, 20. Tapos, 21 na to. So, magkaparehas naman yung amount natin. So, magiging to? 21.5. Ito din, 21.5. Tama ba? 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. Yan, tapos 24. Yan. After na rank lahat ng value, dito tayo sa B. Find the sum of the ranks of each brand. So, sa brand A, ayan, kukunin lahat natin yung mga brand A. So, para di tayo mahirapan, i-sort ulit natin siya. Custom sort. Tapos, doon tayo sa column brand. From A to C. Ayan. Na-arrange na siya from A to D. Ayan. So, hanapin lang natin yung sum nila ng bawat brand. So, sa A, sum ng B, tapos sum ng C, ay mali. Tapos sum ng D. So, proceed na tayo sa C, substitute in the formula. So, ang R1 natin, R sub 1 natin ay itong mga to. So, 79.5. Tapos, yung R2 natin ay 56.5. Tapos, yung R sub 3 natin ay yung 96. R sub 4 ay 68. Tapos, yung naman, mga BBNs natin, since pare-parehas lang naman sila ng number ng sample each brand. So, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Ayan. Ito ay 6. Tapos yung N natin, yung lahat ng sample. So, ayan. Counts 24. So, 24 yung ating N. So, ayan. Sinubstitute ko lang dun sa formula. And yung nakuha natin ay 2.842. So, ayan. Proceed na tayo sa step 4. Make the decision. As the test value of 2.842. 2.842 is the critical value of 7.815. 7.815. 0.15. So as the test result, as the test value of 2.842 less than siya is less than ah, ano na, ibahin na lang natin ng color. Is less than the critical value of 7.815. Thus, we do or we do not reject the null hypothesis. So, hindi, dahil less than siya sa critical value, di natin i-reject yung null hypothesis. Do not reject the null hypothesis. So, sa step 5, summarize the results. Thus, we have no sufficient evidence to prove the claim that there is a difference in the number of colors for different brands. So, we have no sufficient. Yeah. We have no sufficient evidence para i-prove yung claim natin na there is a difference in the number of calories for the different brands. Hence, the differences are not significant at 0.05. So,
This is the tutorial for Kruskal Wallis test using Excel. So, first ang gagawin natin, i-download natin yung Megastat kasi hindi supported ng Excel yung Megastat. So, pupunta lang tayo sa Chrome or sa any search engine. So, dun sa i-type lang natin yung www.mhhe.com/blueman. Enter. So, ito lalabas dito yung elementary statistics at yung mga libro ni Blueman. Click lang natin tong yan. Tapos ganito yung lalabas. May nakalagay na table of contents tsaka yung mga contents ng book na yan. Non-parametric studies. Ayan, so may papalitan lang tayo ng konti dito sa code para ma-download natin yung dapat nating i-download. So papalitan natin siyang 007-3534986. Enter. Yan. So may lalabas na ganyan. So click lang natin. Yan. Tapos ganyan na siya. Tapos click natin yung Megastat. Tapos may 5 file dyan. Yung pangatlong file, i-download natin. Yung pangatlo. Sa pinakagitna. Ayan. So, ayan, downloading na. So, kanina may na-download na ako. Ayan siya. Ang gagawin natin, right click. Tapos, extract all. Tapos, extract. Tapos, may magbubukas na new window. Open lang natin. Tapos, may makikita ka dyan yung for Windows, for Mac, for So, dun lang tayo sa for window kasi Windows yung gamit natin. Pero kung Mac yung gamit mo, or yung mga MacBook, mga Apple, pwede naman. Tapos, extract all mo lang din. Kaso Windows tayo, tapos extract natin yung sa Windows. Yan, extract ulit natin. Tapos may window na naman na lalabas. So, may 5 dyan. Kung mapapansin mo, yung pang-apat. Yun kasi yung i-click natin. Pag in-open natin yan, mapupunta tayo sa WPS Office. Kung may WPS Office ka. So, ang gagawin natin, yan, kailangan buksan natin yan sa Excel. So, punta tayo sa Settings. Yan, Settings. Kanina inayos ko na yan, kaya ganyan. So, doon tayo sa Apps. Click natin yung Apps. Apps. Ayan, tapos sa Default Apps. Tapos type natin yung file type. File type, yan. So, anong file type to? Yan kasing kailangan nating mabuksan para ma-install yung Megastat. Ayan. So, .xlsm siya. So, i-type lang natin dun sa settings yung .xlsm. So, yung naka-WPS Office siya ibubukas. Palitan lang natin ng Excel. Ayan. Naka-Excel file na siya. Double click lang natin. So, ayun, pag in-open natin yung Megastat, ayan, yung lalabas. So, click lang natin yung install. Ayan, yes. Installing. Tapos, ayan, exit. So, kung mapapansin mo, may lumabas na Megastat. Ayan, click lang natin yung Megastat. So, ito yung example kanina dun sa first example natin. Ito yung mga problem tsaka yung data. So, kinopy ko lang. Tapos, yan, ganyan yung lalabas. So, non-parametric. Tapos, Kruskal, Wallis test. Tapos, yan, i-paste lang natin or insert natin yung mga values or mga amount. Yan. Uncheck natin yan para mas malapit yung answer natin sa final or dun sa manual na pagkuha natin ng H-test. Click OK. So, ayan, kung makita mo may mga lumabas na sa result or sa output, tapos merong p-value tsaka so i-copy lang natin to, tapos i-paste natin dyan para maayos. Ayan, may p-value tapos meron yung letter H. So, sa step 4 natin dun sa example natin, sa step 4, malapit yung answer natin or siya lang din yung answer na nakuha natin. Megastat man ang gamitin or yung procedure table.